It's been a minute since I talked about NMIXX on here, which is somewhat unfortunate because I really do like NMIXX as a group. They are incredibly talented, arguably vocally the most talented of the fourth generation next to aespa, but unfortunately they are under a company that has a serious concept issue. For what feels like a few years, JYP has seriously struggled with giving its groups true conceptual identities. And the ones that did, like ITZY, well, that conceptual identity got washed out in the experimentation route which JYP wanted to head in. The one JYP group that has escaped this conceptual crisis under JYP is Twice, and Stray Kids really hasn't deviated much from their original concept, albeit I think their musical quality over the last album or two has personally gone down, but that's just my opinion. ITZY had a fantastic conceptual identity for its debut and first couple of comebacks, and then they dropped it, and we've even started to see this shift with NMIXX. NMIXX debuted with a Mixxpop concept, which is something that gets convoluted by some K-pop fans. Now, did NMIXX create a new genre of music with its Mixxpop? The answer is not really. The concept of genre blending has far preceded NMIXX as a group, but Mixxpop is a good catch-all term for essentially blending two genres together within one song. And there are other groups under JYP who have done this, like Stray Kids has done this on a few of their previous tracks. Mixxpop in the K-pop sphere has pre-existed NMIXX, but NMIXX kind of debuted with it being their signature sound and created a catch-all term for it, so a lot of people are like, it's NMIXX's genre they created, and it, not really, but okay. The Mixxpop concept is very ambitious. And so was JYP. When they announced this group was coming out, they allowed people to pre-order their debut before the group was properly announced, including the members. And it kind of worked. It sold over 61,000 pre-orders in 10 days. People were excited for this debut, but a lot of that excitement died when they actually did debut. Now, personally, my thoughts and feelings on OO have changed since its debut. However, when it dropped, it was not the best song. As much as I applaud JYP for the attempt, they've never been a company to me that has had the best production chops, and that is definitely felt on this song. It is messy. It feels like it was thrown together about 5 days before their debut, even if the individual sections sound pretty good. Also, the Coke reference and or sponsorship is still hilarious to this day. OO might go down as one of the most hated K-pop debuts of all time, on top of the plagiarism accusations they got into, specifically with the ships featured in the music video. Even though Admare, the title of the single album, means to the sea in Latin, so that's why the ships are there. This debut wasn't necessarily a failure because it did get eyes on the group, but JYP essentially threw NMIXX out to the wolves, risking backlash from fans in order to gain attention for the group, which is a risky maneuver. JYP was inviting massive amounts of backlash with this debut, and the members had to endure it. I said a minute ago that my opinions on OO have changed, and that's because I understand that JYP was going for shock value with this song and not necessarily a quality song. And JYP groups have tinkered with Mixxpop before. I mentioned Stray Kids earlier, but Stray Kids is mainly a self-produced group. To debut a new group with a Mixxpop sound is a huge risk because, look, it's not going to sound amazing your first try, and that's what happened here. Their follow-up comeback, Intwerf with Dice and Cool Your Rainbow, sounded a lot better. I think Dice's Mixxpop actually kind of works. There's a part in Dice that blew up amongst K-pop fans being that big wave section and the NMIXX change-up part. Dice certainly won back some of the fans that it lost with its debut, but it still saw the group facing massive amounts of backlash for the pretty rough concept they were playing on, which led to their first EP, Expergo, earlier this year, not really featuring Mixxpop music, kind of abandoning that concept altogether. And you'll see some people out there saying songs like Love Me Like This is Mixxpop, and it is absolutely not. Party O'Clock, Roller Coaster, and Love Me Like This are not Mixxpop songs. You cannot convince me they are. There is no Mixxpop in those songs. K-pop fans can get confused on what Mixxpop actually is. A slight variation in sound in a song is not Mixxpop. A lot of people were upset that NMIXX dropped this Mixxpop concept. It was like their thing, their NMIXX. But I personally think it was necessary because of the amount of backlash this group was receiving from that concept, because JYP couldn't give them quality Mixxpop music. Even S-Class, a song that was in part produced by Bangchan, which I would consider to be a Mixxpop song because there is a switch up to a completely different genre midway through the song, doesn't sound all that good to me. I think it sounds very rushed. I say that with hesitancy because I know how stays can get. NMIXX moving in more of a traditional pop route, I think personally was necessary for them to help bring in some more fans. It's not that Admare and Ntorf didn't sell, because Admare sold almost 500,000 copies and Ntorf sold over 500,000 copies, but the spike with the first comeback was not what you wanted to see. And you also have to remember that NMIXX debuted in a rookie class next to IVE, LE SSERAFIM, New Jeans. NMIXX didn't start at home plate like the other rookie girl groups did. They started in the damn parking lot with their debut. So to head in the more traditionalist pop route with Expergo, I think was a needed step, even if people didn't enjoy it. And that reflected in sales. It had sold almost 1 million copies. And they followed that up with A Midsummer NMIXX's Dream, which did sell over 1 million copies. To be blunt, for JYP, this more traditional pop sound is selling more for them, so they're going to continue with that. And look, I love the Mixxpop concept. I think it's very fun, but Expergo is a good EP. Like, there is good music on here. Love Me Like This is Beyonce coded, and I love it. Password is good. Just Did It is good. I like My Gosh. And both Roller Coaster and Party O'Clock are fantastic summer songs. I think Roller Coaster was released at the perfect time. Are they boring compared to OO and Dice? Yeah, because they're not Mixxpop songs, but it's working for them. And I think songs like Roller Coaster and Party O'Clock are genuinely good songs, even if they aren't Mixxpop songs. I remember on some forums before NMIXX released a Roller Coaster that people were saying that they were going to return to their Mixxpop concept, and then they didn't, and people were disappointed with that. And I understand if you're a fan of Mixxpop and was one of the few that on debut actually liked OO and enjoyed Dice. I was a Dice enjoyer myself. As a fan, it can feel a bit weird to see a group completely abandon the concept that was essentially given to them at debut. I'm someone on this channel who really loves groups that have conceptual consistency to them. There are groups like Billy and Red Velvet that are outliers and experiment a lot with their music and concepts, but they do it well because they make good music. By all means, NMIXX is a group that I should dislike because they don't have conceptual consistency. I mean, line up OO, Dice, Love Me Like This, Roller Coaster. These are songs that have different concepts from one another and sound completely different. Yet, I don't really mind because I understand the situation they were put in. I have seen plenty of video essays created on them about how they're a failed group or how JYP failed them, especially because this is a group with, again, a massive amount of talent. Like, every single one of these members can sing really, really well, and they also sing live really, really well. However, I don't think they're a group that has quite failed yet. They still pull in massive amounts of sale numbers. Again, their last comeback had over 1 million sales. They're under a big three company, and they're still trying to find their footing. Especially since, no offense, we're seeing big three companies putting less effort into their music. I can think of across the board all of the groups from the big three companies, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I have liked very little music that has come out of those companies. K-pop groups should have time in their discography to improve the quality of their music before people immediately write them off after their debut. I honestly did not like Kepler's debut at all, but they have released good music since then. Don't get me wrong, they're a group with a ton of issues, but they're a group that has some genuinely great B-sides. Like, they've made good music since their lackluster debut. I feel like too many people immediately wrote NMIXX off. They were like, this group sucks on debut, and they never came back, which is super unfortunate because NMIXX is a group that has performance talent out of this world. They are fantastic live singers. They are all very competent dancers, and when it comes to live performances, again, they are great. Their potential is amazing. My fear is that JYP will hold them back from their true potential, as we've seen happen with ITZY, a great group who are fantastic performers live, but recently have not gotten the best quality music. And again, music is subjective, so you could easily disagree with me on some of these takes, but I really don't want JYP to spoil the potential of NMIXX like they have spoiled the potential of ITZY. The problem with ITZY is that they debuted with no competition, and JYP was not ready for the competition that was coming. The problem with NMIXX is that JYP had to try to use shock value to boost them into the race, and maybe in a lot of other years it would have worked, but in a year where IVE, LE SSERAFIM, and NewJeans are debuting, it didn't. However, since then, NMIXX has been growing in popularity and also, in my opinion, been getting better music. The title of this video is, Should NMIXX Return to Mixxpop? And my answer to that question is actually another question pointed towards the general community, and that is the general K-pop community ready for NMIXX to come back with true Mixxpop, OO and DICE levels of Mixxpop? Making Mixxpop is hard. Mixxpop is like taking the chassis of an Ford F-150 and then taking the wheels off of a moped and putting them together and saying, drive. If NMIXX comes back with Mixxpop and it doesn't sound good, is the community ready to not necessarily hate NMIXX for it because they don't produce their own music, but instead levy the criticism towards JYP and the production staff? You would figure some K-pop fans would have the common sense to critique the production team and company for the music instead of the members, which have nothing to do with it. But during OO and during DICE, it was the opposite. They levied all of the harsh criticism and honestly hate towards the members themselves. I hate relying on what ifs, but in this situation, it is really a what if. What if NMIXX comes back with Mixxpop and it's bad? How will the community react? And JYPE knows this too. They see that. They see the rising sales numbers in their recent comebacks and general reception of their music being better, and maybe they don't want to return to that true Mixxpop concept, even though that's kind of the whole point of NMIXX. I think this question is honestly quite nuanced, and it'll be interesting to see how JYP approaches NMIXX going forward. Again, I can't necessarily complain about Mixxpop disappearing from NMIXX because I've actually liked their recent music. Party O'Clock, Roller Coaster, Love Me Like This, I really love those songs. And I really love how those songs show off the vocal versatility of the group, even if Tank's Bridge is like one of the best of all time. This will not be the last time you hear me talk about NMIXX. I do have a separate essay planned for them in the future. It'll be longer than this video, talking about Tank, their B-side from their debut. But I wanted to pose this question and see some of your guys' thoughts on it. Does NMIXX always have to use Mixxpop to be NMIXX? Tell me what you guys think about this. Of course, keep it respectful in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video.